Shalom. This video is about the history of lighting candles on Shabbat. There's nothing in the Torah about lighting candles on Shabbat. The Proverbs tell us that the candle that we light is like the soul of a man to God. So candles have been very significant. Obviously, we use candles in a lot of things. And the rabbis, 2,000 years ago, said that lighting candles on Shabbat is one of the things that women must do. But it wasn't viewed as a mitzvah, really, until Rashi said that, is a commentary on the Talmudic tractate Shabbat. He said, by observing the mitzvot of kindling lamps on Shabbat and Hanukkah, one brings the light of Torah into the world. Now, the Midrash, rabbinic stories, said that one of the reasons it was given to women is kind of a tikkun, a repair, for the sin that Eve brought into the world by urging Adam to eat from the tree that they weren't supposed to eat from. In any case, it doesn't seem to be really the force of a mitzvah until 900 years ago. But even then, when Rashi established it as a mitzvah and it was accepted by the Jewish world, the Ashkenazic world, they didn't know what bracha to say. In fact, medieval Sephardic women lit Shabbat lamps without any blessing at all. But during the 11th century, Ashkenazic women already had started to fulfill some of the mitzvot that men were fulfilling, such as blowing the shofar and wearing tefillin and tzitzit. According to Machzor Vitri, which is a compendium of laws and customs that collected by Rashi students, women took upon themselves these commandments and recited blessings as well. In the same way today that we have new rituals for Jewish women like bat mitzvah, and women are becoming rabbis and cantors. Okay, so Rashi accepts the kindling of Sabbath candles as a mitzvah for women, so then it seems logical that if women were reciting blessings for commandments they were taking upon themselves that previously had been for men, something that women had always done, lighting Shabbat candles, there should be a blessing. So, and Rashi's grandson, Rabbi Tam, declared that lighting the Sabbath lamps required a blessing. So what blessing? Well, this is a case where we borrowed the blessing from Hanukkah. The Hanukkah blessing was already established. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. So they simply substituted the phrase lahadlik ner shel Chanukah, blessed are you, O Lord our God, who King of the universe, who sanctifies us by your commandments and commanded us to kindle the candles for Hanukkah, and they just simply substituted the word for Shabbat. So the Hanukkah blessing is actually 1,000 years older than the Shabbat blessing. And we know this because Rashi's granddaughter, Hannah, described the ritual that her mother performed, that Rashi's daughter performed, explained that in Rashi's house the women first lit the Shabbat lamps and then recited the benediction, and the words she explains there are the same ones that we use today. And Rabbeinu Tam's decision and his sister Hannah's responsum were so authoritative that within 100 years after them, even women in the Sephardic world were saying this blessing. So today, we think that Moses' wife lit candles and said the blessing at Sinai. Obviously not true, but it's certainly one of the basic rituals and laws of Judaism. It's hard to imagine Jewish life without Shabbat candles. And the fact that about a quarter of Jewish households have Shabbat candles lit on Friday night, I think is a very sad thing. Now, I know an Orthodox rabbi would not tell you this, but I think even if you're going to go out afterwards, at least light Shabbat candles. Be careful if you have a cat. Otherwise, light Shabbat candles, and if you have a cat, put it in the sink where the cat can't cause too much damage. But at least it creates a Shabbos atmosphere. And then if you already have Shabbos candles, what's the big problem of getting some grape juice or kosher wine and a challah and making Shabbat? And then if you're doing that, so stay home and have a Shabbat dinner. Go to services and have a Shabbat dinner. Make Shabbat. One of the saddest things, I think, in terms of Jewish life is when I ask my 10th graders, how many of you have any evidence in your home between sundown Friday and Saturday night that it's Shabbat? And not that many of them have. Shabbat is a Chad Ha'am, a secular Jew, said, more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jews. And one of the ideas of the rabbis was that if every Jew kept Shabbat, the Messiah would come. So let's start with at least fulfilling the mitzvah of Shabbat Zachor, remember, by having candles and Kiddush and Challah at Friday night and making Shabbat dinner and sanctifying Shabbat in that way. Now, strictly speaking, Shabbat candles should be lit 18 minutes before sunset. You find out when sunset is on a Friday, you should light candles 18 minutes before. My view is, whatever time you should light candles, but it's best to do it at the proper time. And 18 minutes before sunset was because we think that's how long it took the average Roman, was the standard amount of time to walk a mile. So you have a little fence around when Shabbat is. Because the Torah doesn't really tell us when Shabbat starts. It simply says it was evening and it was morning. So we know it was around evening. So what's the earliest it could be? It's then. What's the latest it could be? Dark. And that's when we ended on Saturday night. Hope this helps elucidate a little bit about the Shabbat laws.